Okay, we're going to look through our food chains and webs worksheet really quickly. It says here, use the food web below to complete the following questions. So before I even look at the questions, I'm going to make sure I know what's going on in my food web. So first of all, I want to point out the algae here. The algae is going to be your only producer in this food web. The reason I know that is because there are only arrows leaving the algae. There's nothing pointing to the algae. That means the algae is giving its energy to whatever eats it, but it's not taking in any energy by eating something else. So that is the definition of a producer. That means to get its energy, the algae must be making it on its own. And we know that producers do that through a process called photosynthesis, which basically the sun gives them energy, and then that energy is turned into sugar, which the plant uses as food. So, if we look here, just remember a food chain too, that's just a collection of all the food webs in an ecosystem. So, this food web is showing every single possibility that could happen, every single way that energy could be transferred in this particular ecosystem. So, if we see here, let's just follow a few paths. So, the algae can give its energy to the krill. The arrow is pointing from the algae to the krill. That means the krill gets energy from the algae. So, the algae is giving the energy to the krill because the krill eats the algae. Then, one possibility is that this crab eater seal could eat the krill. So, the energy is moving from the krill to the crab eater seal. Another possibility is that the crab eater seal gives its energy to the leopard seal, which means that the leopard seal eats the crab eater seal. And another possibility from there is that the leopard seal gives its energy to the killer whale, which means that the killer whale eats the leopard seal. Now we'll notice that nothing on this food web eats the killer whale. The killer whale doesn't give its energy to anything. That means we'll call that an apex predator. It's at the top of the food chain, the top of the energy pyramid, if you want to think about it that way. So there are other ways that energy can be transferred in this food web, though, of course, because we said a food web shows every single possible scenario. So let's just look at another one really quickly before we move on to the questions. We always start with algae in this one because that's our only producer, because the only arrows that we have from the algae are leaving the algae. They're pointing away from the algae. There's nothing pointing to the algae. So that means it's only giving off energy. It's not taking in any energy by eating another organism. So, algae, we could say that the squid could eat the algae because the arrow is pointing from the algae to the squid. That means the algae is giving its energy to the squid because the squid eats it. Then we could have the squid gives its energy to the elephant seal. Then the elephant seal gives its energy to the killer whale. And there's no arrows pointing away from the killer whale, so that's our apex predator. So let's look now at these questions. It says in the food web there are 8 food chains that include krill. In the space provided, identify 4 different food chains that can be determined based on the food web. Remember that every food chain should begin with a producer. So, like I said, our producer is going to be algae every single time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, we are going to make food chains from this information in this food web. So I'm going to use my text box to do that. So the first organism should be a producer. The only producer I have is algae. And you can either make an arrow like this, you can make a comma, I don't care. I'm going to just do this. So let's just look at one. Algae, here's a really simple one. What's next? Cod. And then what eats the cod? The leopard seal. And then what eats the leopard seal? It's the killer whale. So that's one food chain. Let's look at another one. We're going to have to start with algae. Next, let's go this way. We have krill. Then we have the Adelaide penguin. Then we have the killer whale. There's 2 food chains from that food web. Next, we got to start with algae. Let's go to squid. And then from the squid, we can go to the leopard seal. And then from the leopard seal, we can only go to the killer whale. There are 3 food chains. Let's look at 4. We have to start with algae. Now let's go to small animals and protists. Oh, let's go to cod. After cod, we can go to leopard seal. After leopard seal, killer whale. So those are our 4 food chains. Now, do you have to have these same food chains that I have listed? Absolutely not. There are many more. It's just up to you. So if yours are not exactly the same as mine, that's perfectly fine. Just as long as they follow in a pattern, like they follow the same, okay, we're pointing here, we're pointing here, we're pointing here. You can't say algae, Adelaide penguin, squid, crab-eater seal, elephant seal, whale, killer whale, because they're not in line. The arrows don't connect them. So just pay attention to where your arrows are and you're fine. Just remember too, all of yours should start with algae as the producer. So number 5, what organisms do cod eat? List all that apply. So let's find cod here. So what organisms do the cod eat? That means the arrows are pointing to the cod from another organism. Because remember, the arrows show the way the energy is moving. So the energy is moving from here to the cod. That means the cod eats krill. Let's go ahead and we'll just look at them first. And the arrows are pointing here, small animals and protists. That means that the cod can eat small animals and protists. Also, the cod can eat algae because the arrows are pointing towards the cod. Now, this one here, the leopard seal, is not something that the cod eats. It's something that eats the cod because the arrow is pointing towards the leopard seal from the cod. So the cod is giving its energy to the leopard seal. So the things that the cod eats are krill, algae, and small animals and protists. Oops. Number 6 lists all the organisms that eat squid. All that eat squid. So here's squid. So if it eats the squid, that means the energy is moving from the squid to another organism. So the arrows are pointing away from the squid. So we have the elephant seal, we have the killer whale, we have the leopard seal. That's it. The arrows are pointing to the squid from algae and small animals and protists, which means the squid is getting energy from or eating the algae and small animals and protists. But it's giving its energy to the elephant seal, the killer whale, and the leopard seal, which means that they are eating the squid. So we have, if I can remember, leopard seal, killer whale, elephant seal. Leopard seal, killer whale, and elephant seal. All right, number 7, how many producers are in the food web and name them? Well, we talked about that at the beginning. The only producer is algae. So we have 1. Only thing that, and the reason I put that on there, the only thing that throws that off is it looks like small animals and protists could be a producer, but it can't be because algae is giving the energy to that. So it's sort of like one of those just make you think questions. So if you have any questions about this, just let me know and I'll gladly explain it to you.